My son-in-law arrogantly announced a family vacation to Martha's Vineyard. Everyone except me. There's only budget for us and my parents, he said smugly. I just smiled softly. Have a wonderful trip. But when they arrived at the resort, I was already standing there waiting. Are you stalking us? Get lost! They screamed, but then the manager stepped forward. And after her words, that's when they truly understood what a terrible mistake they had just made. Before we continue with what happened at that dinner table, please let us know in the comments where you're watching this incredible story from. I set the dining table with our finest china, the delicate porcelain set Elena and I received for our 25th anniversary. The gold rim caught the evening light in our Asheville home. Only 2 pieces had chipped over the years. The aroma of Ivy's favorite pot roast filled the house. Elena's recipe perfected before cancer took her. I'd been making this dish for Ivy since she was 12, every celebration, every time she needed comfort. I uncorked the wine early, a Napa Valley Cabernet that cost me $120. More than I usually spent, but Ivy was bringing Zane's parents tonight. The doorbell rang at 6:30. Ivy looked radiant in a designer dress, Zane confident in his expensive suit. Pierce Hart stepped forward. First, his handshake brief eyes already scanning my modest living room. Tiago, thank you for having us. His tone carried that wealthy politeness when they're doing you a favor. Blair Hart followed in her silk blouse worth more than my monthly groceries. What a charming little place, she said, taking in my 20-year-old furniture-worn carpet family photos. Please sit wherever you're comfortable, I said. I'd spent the afternoon polishing the oak table, arranging Elena's flowers, making every detail perfect. Zane immediately claimed the head of the table, my spot, for 30 years. I said nothing, taking the seat beside him. Ivy sat next to me, but was already on her phone. I brought out the roast on Elena's serving platter. This smells incredible, Dad, Ivy said, glancing up briefly. Your mother's recipe? I replied, carving portions. She always said the secret was patience. Pierce accepted his plate with a nod. Smells rustic. Very authentic. The word sounded like an anthropological observation. I reached for the wine, but Zane was already there, lifting it with casual assumption. He examined the label. Interesting choice, Tiago. 2003 Napa Cabernet. Actually quite decent. He poured for Blair first, then Pierce, then Ivy. The bottle moved in a careful circle around the table. When he set it down, it was at the far end, well out of my reach. My glass remained empty. Ivy watched this happen. She said nothing. The conversation flowed around me like I was furniture. Pierce discussed his real estate ventures, mentioning his mysterious business partner at TK, holdings who'd made him wealthy over the past decade. Blair complimented the quaint curtains Elena had sewn her tone, suggesting museum pieces. Zane shifted his chair, angling away from me, creating a subtle wall. Ivy mirrored his movement. I passed potatoes. I refilled water glasses. I cleared plates. The invisible servant in my own home at my own table, serving my own wine to people who treated my hospitality like an inconvenience. The irony wasn't lost on me. Pierce bragged about his TK Holdings partner, never knowing he was describing me. For 10 years, I'd been his silent business partner, helping him earn over $2 million through our real estate deals. He'd made a fortune from my expertise while sitting at my table, drinking my wine and treating me like hired help. As dessert finished, Zane leaned back with that smug smile I'd grown to recognize. So, big announcement, Zane said, swirling his wine glass. We're doing a family vacation. Martha's Vineyard, 7 days at an exclusive boutique resort. Pierce straightened, pleased. Excellent choice. Martha's Vineyard in August is spectacular. Blair pulled out her phone, showing photos. Ocean views, private beach, 5-star dining. Very exclusive. Ivy finally looked up, genuinely smiling. When do we leave? August 21st through 28th, Zane announced proudly. Already booked everything. Flights, resort, the works. I waited for him to mention my arrangements. Silence stretched. That sounds wonderful. Which resort are we staying at? I asked. The table went quiet. Zane's smile tightened. Actually, Tiago, there's only budget for immediate family. Us and my parents. You understand. The words hit like a physical blow. Of course. I could cover my own expenses. I'd love to spend time with family. Dad, Ivy said carefully, we've been talking and honestly we need a break from you. The pot roast turned to ash in my mouth. Pierce studied his plate while Blair found her napkin fascinating. Zane watched with barely concealed satisfaction. A break, I repeated quietly. It's not personal. Zane jumped in falsely apologetic. Just quality time with the core family unit. Sometimes too many people complicate the dynamic. I looked at my daughter, this woman I'd raised, whose college I'd paid for, whose wedding I'd funded. Ivy. She couldn't meet my eyes. It's just for a week, Dad. We'll send photos. I stood slowly. Let me get dessert. Actually, Pierce checked his watch. We should head out. Early morning lots to prepare. They left within minutes. Ice-cold kisses, hollow promises to call excitement buzzing as they walked to their cars. I watched Zane's BMW pull away, followed by Pierce's Mercedes. The house settled into silence. I began clearing dishes, wrapping leftovers. The wine bottle sat nearly full, most of my $120 investment untouched. Loading the dishwasher, I heard voices from the driveway. The kitchen window was cracked open. The old man doesn't have expensive taste anyway, Ivy was saying. Probably be happier in a smaller place. Once we get the house sold, Zane replied, we can pay off the cards and maybe look at that bigger place in Charlotte. My hands stilled on the plates. He'll just be happy to help the family. Ivy continued. He always is. Pierce's voice joined them. The market's hot. That house should bring at least $400,000, more than enough. And he won't even notice the difference. Blair laughed. Did you see that jacket? Same one he wore to your wedding and promotion dinner. Their voices faded as car doors slammed. I stood in my kitchen, understanding settling over me like cold water. They hadn't just excluded me. They'd planned it. Counted on selling my home, Elena's home, to fund their luxury and pay debts. The house where I'd carried my bride over the threshold, where we'd brought Ivy home from the hospital where Elena had died in my arms. Something crystallized in my chest, sharp and cold. Not rage. Rage was too hot, too chaotic. This was something else entirely. This was clarity. After they left, I sat in my home office and opened my laptop. The laptop screen illuminated my face in the darkened office. I entered the password and watched my other life unfold. TK Holdings, LLC. Total portfolio value $5.8 million. 4 properties across the Southeast. The Charleston Boutique Hotel, acquired in 2015. The Gatlinburg Mountain Resort, renovated from bankruptcy. 2 Savannah bed and breakfasts, purchased as a package deal. All generating steady income. All completely invisible to my family. I'd built this empire quietly after Elena died, working double shifts at the hospital, saving every extra dollar, learning real estate through night classes while Ivy spent the money I'd given her. The irony was perfect. Pierce Hart, drinking my wine while treating me like hired help, had no idea he'd been my business partner for over a decade. I opened the Pierce Hart file. Our deals since 2014, Myrtle Beach, Flip Outer Banks Development, Raleigh Commercial Property Resort Consulting. Total amount Pierce had earned from his mysterious TK Holdings partner, $2.3 million. I'd made Pierce wealthy. His Mercedes Blair's silk blouse, probably Ivy's designer dress tonight, all funded by my business deals. Pierce loved bragging about his anonymous partner. Brilliant businessman, he'd tell people. Never met him face to face, but he's made me a fortune. Real estate genius. He'd been describing me, to my face, at my dinner table. I pulled up my banking interface. Liquid assets available $4.5 million. Then I searched Martha's Vineyard Luxury Resorts August availability. I scrolled through options cross-referencing Blair's photos. Ocean Views Private Beach Boutique Property. There. Tidewater Inn, Martha's Vineyard, exclusive 40-room resort, private beach, 5-star dining. The same property from Blair's photos. I clicked through to corporate information. Privately owned by Clay West, established 2012. Recent reviews mentioned financial difficulties, deferred maintenance. A struggling property. Perfect. I searched business listings. Tidewater Inn, Martha's Vineyard for sale. The listing appeared immediately. Motivated seller asking $4.2 million. Owner financing considered. Clay West was desperate. I smiled in the darkness, not happy. Something colder. Pierce had made millions from my partnership. Ivy had taken my sacrifices for granted. Zane had treated me like an inconvenience. They'd planned to sell Elena's house to fund their vacation. They wanted a break from me. I was about to give them exactly what they'd asked for. I opened travel booking and searched flights to Boston with Martha's Vineyard connections. Tomorrow showed several options. My finger hovered over the purchase button. Once I clicked this, there would be no going back. Then I thought about Ivy's voice. He won't even notice the difference. I clicked purchase. Departure 7:30 a.m. tomorrow morning. Arrival, Martha's Vineyard, 1:15 p.m. More than enough time to inspect the property and make an offer before they finished packing. I printed the boarding pass and gathered my business banking documentation and proof of funds. The next morning, while they packed for their exclusive vacation, I would already be buying it. The morning flight lifted off from Asheville at 7:30. While my family packed for their exclusive vacation, I sat in coach reviewing property acquisition documents. They were preparing for Martha's Vineyard. I was traveling there to buy it. Martha's Vineyard Airport was small, surrounded by scrub pines and salt air. I drove the coastal road toward Tidewater Inn, passing weathered houses and pristine beaches. The resort appeared around a curve. 40 rooms in a horseshoe around a central courtyard, cedar shingles wrap around porches, overlooking private beach. Beautiful but showing problems. Peeling paint, overgrown landscaping pool needing resurfacing. Clay West met me in the lobby, late 50s shoulders sagging with financial failure. His handshake was desperate. "Mr. Kane, thank you for coming. When someone says 48-hour closing, I make time." We toured slowly. Clay pointed out renovated rooms, the restaurant, private beach access. His exhausted enthusiasm spoke of repeated failed presentations. "Built this 20 years ago," he said on the deck. Ocean breeze carrying salt air. Poured everything into it. Market changed, big chains moved in. I calculated renovation costs while nodding sympathetically. Perfect location, solid infrastructure, desperate seller. 4.2 million, I said. 48-hour closing, all cash, minimal contingencies. Clay's face cycled through. Hope, relief, disbelief. "That's acceptable. When can we start?" "Now." I opened my briefcase, pulled out the purchase offer. Proof of funds, immediate availability. He read slowly, lips moving. When he looked up, something had shifted. "You're serious?" "Completely." I slid my bank letter across his desk. He read twice, then set it down carefully. "I'll call my attorney. Preliminary documents tonight." That evening, Quinn Gray, a sharp commercial attorney, walked me through documents with practiced efficiency. "Property is distressed, but structurally sound," she concluded. "No legal obstacles if you're comfortable with the timeline. Draw up closing documents Friday morning." Friday morning, we closed in Clay's office. Documents signed, wire transfers executed. I handed over a cashier's check for $4.2 million. Clay's hand trembled when we shook. "You're saving my life." I didn't respond. This wasn't about saving anyone. By noon, Tidewater Inn belonged to TK Holdings, LLC. I called Sky West, the general manager, to my office. "Sky, I'm keeping you as general manager. 15% salary increase effective immediately." Her eyes widened. "Thank you, sir." "You'll earn it. I have specific instructions regarding the Heart Party reservation arriving Sunday." She checked her tablet. 4 guests, Ocean View Suite, week-long stay. Change it. Standard rooms, garden view. New pricing structure, 40% increase across all services. She frowned. "They've confirmed at previous rates. New ownership, new terms. 72 hours notice exceeds legal requirements." "This seems personal." I held her gaze. "This is business. Will you follow instructions?" She nodded. "Yes, sir." When they arrive surprised about changes, inform them I am the owner. Not before. "Understood. Understood. I'm flying back tomorrow. You have my contact for emergencies." After she left, I stood on the deck overlooking the private beach, where in 3 days my family would expect their exclusive paradise. They would find something very different. While I finalized the purchase 800 miles away in Asheville, they were probably having their last family dinner before departure, excited about their break from me. They had no idea I was already here waiting. The taxi pulled into Tidewater Inn's drive at 3:15 Sunday. I watched from my office as 4 familiar figures emerged into Martha's Vineyard sunshine. Ivy stepped out first, designer sunglasses reflecting the ocean. Zane surveyed the property with proprietary assessment. Pierce and Blair emerged, Blair photographing the entrance for social media. They had no idea what waited inside. I straightened my business suit and positioned myself to observe the front desk. Sky moved to her station. The trap was set. Zane approached, first slapping his credit card down. "Heart Party reservation for 4. We have the Ocean View Suite." Sky took the card, began typing. Her screen showed the reassignments I'd implemented. She paused, as rehearsed. "Yes, Mr. Hart. I have your reservation. There's been an adjustment due to ownership transition." "Adjustment," Zane interrupted. "We booked months ago. If you'll wait in the seating area, I'll have everything ready shortly." Zane sighed with exaggerated patience. Ivy settled on the sofa with her phone. Pierce and Blair remained standing. Blair touching a potted orchid. I stepped from the hallway, tablet in hand, walking with measured authority. Professional, unhurried, completely in control. 10 feet away, Ivy glanced up. Her face went through confusion, recognition, shock. Dad! Zane's head snapped around. Pierce and Blair froze. I looked up as if just noticing them showed no surprise. Dad, what are you doing here? Ivy's voice carried genuine bewilderment. Zane's confusion shifted to anger. Are you serious? You followed us? I met his gaze evenly. I work here. That stopped him. His expression cycled through incomprehension, then contempt. He laughed harshly. You work here. You got a job at our resort to spy on us. Pierce whispered too loudly to Blair. This is inappropriate. Completely inappropriate. This is harassment, Zane said, voice rising. I want you out of here now. Other guests turned to watch. I didn't move, didn't raise my voice. I'm conducting business. Your business is ruining our vacation. Get out. Ivy stood trying to mediate. Zane, maybe we should... No, he turned to Sky. Get your manager. Get security. I want this man removed. Sky signaled Ryder Knox, our security coordinator, who moved forward with professional calm. Sir, please lower your voice, Sky said. You're disturbing other guests. Zane's face reddened. I'm disturbing. He's stalking his own daughter. Tell this man he needs to leave, Zane demanded. We're paying guests. Sky stood drawing every eye in the lobby. When she spoke, her voice carried perfect clarity. Mr. Kane is the owner of Tidewater Inn. As of Friday, you are his guests. Absolute silence followed. The couple on the sofa stared openly. An elderly man abandoned his newspaper. Zane's mouth worked soundlessly. Owner? Ivy looked at me, color draining. You bought this resort? I met her eyes. I did. Blair's phone clattered to the floor. Pierce grabbed his wife's arm. Zane recovered aggression, surging. This is insane. You can't... I said, cutting him off calmly. I did. Now Miss West will finish your check-in. Your rooms are ready. This is we booked in good faith. This is our vacation. Your reservation stands, Sky interjected. Tidewater Inn honors all bookings. There have been adjustments due to ownership transition, which is standard practice. I don't want to review anything with him here. For the first time, I allowed a small smile. This is a resort. You made a reservation. You're checking in. Everything is entirely standard. Ivy sank back onto the sofa, staring like I was a stranger, which was accurate. How long have you... She couldn't finish. I closed the purchase Friday. That's 2 days ago, Pierce said faintly. We booked 3 months ago. Ownership changes happened. The property was listed. I made an offer. Business. Pierce's face went white as the implications sank in. Pierce stared at me like I'd grown a second head. Owner. That's impossible. You can't afford this place. The lobby remained silent, other guests pretending not to eavesdrop. Zane's face cycled between confusion and rage. Ivy sat motionless. Actually, Pierce, I said calmly, you know me quite well. His frown deepened. What's that supposed to mean? I smiled not warmly. I'm your business partner, TK Holdings. The words hit him like a physical blow. His face went through confusion, recognition, dawning horror. His mouth opened soundlessly. That's not possible. 2014 Myrtle Beach flip. Your profit $400,000. I spoke clearly, ensuring everyone could hear. 2016 Outer Banks development. $600,000. 2018 Raleigh commercial property. $900,000. Pierce's legs gave out slightly. He grabbed a chair for support. 2020 resort consulting fees. $400,000 more. I paused. Total earned from our partnership $2.3 million. Blair's face went ashen. Pierce, is this true? He nodded slowly, his world crumbling. You love bragging about your mysterious TK Holdings partner. I continued with amusement. Brilliant businessman, you call him. Never met face to face, but he's made you a fortune. Real estate genius. Zane stared at his father with growing horror. Dad, you've been working with him. He didn't know it was me. All business conducted through intermediaries. I looked at Pierce. Very professional. Very profitable for both of us. Pierce found his voice, though it croaked. You've been TK Holdings this whole time. Thomas Kane Holdings. My middle name. I gestured around the lobby. You helped fund this purchase, Pierce. Your success made my success possible. The irony was perfect. Pierce Hart, who'd treated me like hired help at my dinner table, had been enriched by my business acumen for a decade. Every deal he'd bragged about, every Mercedes payment, every silk blouse Blair wore funded by the man he'd tried to have removed from his own property. This is why you could afford... Blair's voice trailed off. 4.2 million cash. Purchase 48-hour closing? I confirmed. Possible because of 10 years of successful partnerships with your husband. Ivy finally spoke hollow. All those times Pierce talked about his business partner, he was talking about me, to my face, at my dinner table. While drinking wine, he wouldn't pour for me. Zane's aggression evaporated, replaced by panic. This is insane. This is business. The same business making your family wealthy for years. Pierce slumped into the chair. I had no idea. You couldn't. That was the point. I checked my watch casually. Now Miss West was completing your check-in. Skye cleared her throat. Yes, sir. Mr. Hart, shall we continue? Pierce wasn't listening. He stared at me with the expression of someone who'd realized he'd been unknowingly dependent on someone he'd dismissed for years. Blair grabbed his arm. Pierce, we need to talk. Privately. Nothing private about this, Zane said, voice tight with panic. Everyone saw what happened. I looked around at other guests, some openly watching phones out recording. Your rooms are ready. Standard accommodations, garden view. The pricing adjustments Miss West mentioned are documented in your updated confirmation email. Pricing adjustments. Blair's voice was faint. New ownership, new rates, 40% increase across all services. You were notified Friday within legal notification period. As reality settled, trapped at a resort owned by the man they'd excluded with bills they couldn't afford, dependent on someone they'd treated like dirt. I smiled politely. Welcome to Tidewater Inn. I hope you enjoy your stay. The first night in their standard accommodations set the tone for everything that followed. Pierce and Blair's garden view room overlooked the staff parking lot and dumpster enclosure. The air conditioning hummed loudly enough to interfere with sleep. The bathroom had weak water pressure that barely qualified as functional. Zane and Ivy's room was identical. When Zane called to complain, Skye explained politely that all standard rooms met stated requirements and no upgrades were available. The dining experience that first evening was equally educational. A simple dinner for 4 came to $320 before tip. Pierce studied the bill with complex mathematics. $35 for salmon. New ownership implemented updated pricing yesterday, their server explained with practiced patience. Blair's face went pale calculating their weekly food budget. The numbers weren't working. The second day brought new complications. Pool maintenance began at 7 a.m. beneath their rooms. Hammering and machinery noise made sleep impossible. When Pierce complained, Skye apologized and explained urgent repairs couldn't be delayed. The work continued until 11:30. Wi-Fi became mysteriously unstable that afternoon. It worked perfectly in the lobby, but dropped constantly in their rooms. The IT technician shrugged apologetically. Island infrastructure can be unpredictable. Sometimes signals don't reach certain areas. Zane documented everything on his phone. Timestamps photos of parking lot views, air conditioning recordings. He was building a case for something unclear. This is deliberate harassment, he told Ivy by the pool during the brief 2 hours between maintenance sessions. He's targeting us specifically. Ivy watched other families enjoying their vacation. Maybe we should try to enjoy it. It's only a week. Enjoy it. Look at what we're paying. Bills accumulated faster than anticipated. Room service took 90 minutes instead of 30. When they complained about delays, they received complimentary appetizers that appeared on their bill anyway due to computer errors. Beach access required $25 per person daily, not mentioned during booking. Pool towels were $15 each. The business center charged $5 for printing a single page. By the third day, family dynamics were fracturing visibly. Pierce sat alone at breakfast, staring at his phone, calculating remaining accessible funds. Blair stopped taking social media photos. The vacation she'd planned to brag about had become mortification. Zane tried calling a local attorney, spending $350 on a consultation that yielded nothing actionable. Price changes were legally implemented. Room reassignments were within hotel rights. Maintenance was routine. Wi-Fi failures were infrastructure issues. We can leave negative reviews or find alternative accommodation, the lawyer said. That's your recourse. But alternative Martha's Vineyard accommodation in August cost even more than Tidewater Inn's inflated rates, and they'd already paid for current rooms. They were trapped. Ivy stopped speaking to Zane after he blamed her for not controlling me better. Pierce and Blair had whispered arguments that carried through thin walls. Blair kept mentioning the Hendersons' neighbors who'd asked about their exclusive resort vacation. What are we going to tell people? she asked Pierce during audible fights. We bragged to everyone about this place. The irony wasn't lost on me as I observed from my office. They'd wanted a break from me. Now they were getting exactly what they'd asked for a vacation where my presence dominated every moment, every decision, every expense. Checkout day arrived like a financial reckoning. The family gathered in the lobby at 11 a.m., their designer luggage somehow diminished after a week of systematic disappointment. Skye approached with professional courtesy. Good morning. Checking out today? Zane placed his credit card on the counter with less confidence than a week ago. Heart party. 4 guests. Skye's fingers moved across her keyboard. The printer produced the final bill. She placed it face down and slid it toward Zane. He flipped it over confidently, then froze. This says $8,500. Yes, sir. All accommodations, dining services, and resort fees at current rates. More than double their budget. Every line item documented every charge legitimate under my ownership structure. Zane inserted his credit card. It beeped once, declined. He tried again, entering his PIN manually. Same result. He yanked out a different card. The terminal rejected it immediately. His face went white sweat, visible despite the air conditioning. He turned to Pierce desperately. Dad, I need help. Pierce looked at the floor, shoulders sagging. I can't. The TK Holdings money, it's tied up in investments. The house renovation, Blair's car. He trailed off, unable to meet his son's eyes. Perfect irony. Pierce had spent money earned from partnering with me and now couldn't afford the bill my ownership created. Blair clutched her purse protectively. Pierce, we can't. The Hendersons' anniversary party is next month. If word gets out, we couldn't pay our hotel bill. Social humiliation trumped financial crisis in Blair's world. Ivy stepped forward without speaking. She didn't look at Zane, didn't look at me watching from across the lobby. She simply handed Skye her credit card and stared at the wall. Approved. She took the receipt, folded it without looking, put it in her purse. $8,500 on her personal credit card, maxing out her available credit, creating years of debt. The family moved toward the exit like people leaving a hospital after bad news. Slow, silent, defeated. Pierce walked head down, a man who discovered his business success depended on someone he'd dismissed for years. Blair clutched his arm, probably composing social explanations. Zane's jaw clenched so tightly I could see muscles working. His vacation had cost him nothing financially, but everything in pride and relationships. Ivy walked last, shoulders curved inward, diminished. She'd paid for everyone's mistakes, literally and figuratively. They didn't speak as they loaded into the taxi. Through lobby windows, I watched them drive toward the airport. 4 people who'd arrived as a united family, leaving as strangers bound only by shared humiliation. I remained at Tidewater Inn another week, implementing operational improvements, with Skye planning fall marketing strategies. The resort had excellent potential under proper management. Other guests left positive reviews that week. They appreciated the location, professional service, attention to detail. The Hart family's negative reviews were buried under genuine praise from satisfied customers. The business was solid. The revenge was complete. But sitting in my office that final evening, watching sunset paint Martha's Vineyard in gold and orange, I felt something unexpected. Not satisfaction, not triumph. Something quieter, more complex. I'd taught them about respect consequences, the dangers of taking people for granted. Whether they'd learned remained to be seen. 2 weeks later, back in Asheville, I would find out. 2 weeks after returning from Martha's Vineyard, the consequences were still unfolding in Asheville. Zane and Ivy's relationship had fractured under the weight of financial stress and mutual blame. The $8,500 debt sat on Ivy's credit card like a stone, accumulating interest she couldn't afford. Zane blamed her for not managing me better. She blamed him for creating the situation in the first place. Pierce and Blair had retreated to their own crisis management, fielding questions from friends about their exclusive vacation, while trying to explain why they looked exhausted rather than refreshed. But it was Ivy who surprised me. She appeared at my door on a Thursday evening alone. No designer dress this time, just simple jeans and a sweater. No makeup to hide the exhaustion in her eyes. She looked smaller, somehow diminished by the weight of realization. Dad, can we talk? I stepped aside, let her enter the home she'd planned to sell without my consent. She sat on the edge of the sofa, where 2 weeks ago she'd ignored me while scrolling through her phone. And I was a terrible daughter, she said quietly. All those years you were always there, and I treated you like you were invisible, like you existed only to solve my problems and pay my bills. I kept my expression neutral, listening. The pot roast you made that night, Mom's recipe. You've been making it for me since I was 12, every birthday, every celebration, and I barely looked up from my phone to thank you. Her voice broke slightly. You bought wine that cost more than you usually spend just to make the evening special. And Zane wouldn't even pour you a glass. I remained silent. She needed to say this, needed to work through the realization herself. And I watched it happen and said nothing. My own father in his own home, and I let my husband treat you like hired help. Tears started falling now. What kind of person does that make me? The kind who can recognize their mistakes, I said finally. The kind who can choose to do better. She looked up at me, hope flickering in her eyes. Can we fix this? I sat down across from her, maintaining some distance. Trust would have to be rebuilt slowly. That depends on you, Ivy. This isn't about money. It never was. It's about respect. It's about remembering that family means something. I know that now. I know what you sacrificed for me. Working double shifts after Mom died, learning real estate investment, building TK Holdings, while I spent your money without thinking. You made Pierce wealthy, and he treated you like dirt at your own dinner table. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. I'm divorcing Zane, she said quietly. I should have defended you that night, and I didn't. I should have stopped him from excluding you, and I didn't. I chose his family over my own father, and that's unforgivable. It's not unforgivable, I corrected. It's a mistake. A serious one, but mistakes can be learned from. We sat in silence for a moment, the house settling around us with familiar creaks and sighs. I don't expect you to trust me right away, she said. I don't expect you to forgive me immediately, but I want to try. I want to be the daughter you deserved all along. I looked at this woman I'd raised who'd lost her way but was finding it again. It won't be easy. There's a lot to rebuild. I know, but I'm willing to do the work if you are. For the first time in weeks, I smiled. Not the cold, calculated smile I'd worn at Tidewater Inn, but something warmer, something that felt like hope. Then we'll start tomorrow. Come for dinner. I'll make pot roast. Sometimes the greatest victories aren't about destroying your enemies. They're about saving the people you love from becoming enemies in the first place. Family isn't just about blood. It's about respect, sacrifice, and the courage to admit when you're wrong. Looking back on everything that happened, I realize I could have handled things differently. Don't be like me. Don't wait until you're pushed to the breaking point before standing up for yourself. I let years of disrespect accumulate until I felt I had no choice but to teach such a harsh lesson. The truth is, family relationships require constant nurturing and mutual respect. When we take our loved ones for granted, when we treat them as resources, rather than people, we damage something precious that God gave us. I should have addressed Ivy's behavior years earlier, set boundaries when the disrespect first started, rather than enabling it through my silence. God teaches us that honor and respect must flow both ways in families. Children should honor their parents, but parents must also model dignity and self-respect. I failed in this balance for too long. These grandpa stories we share aren't just entertainment. They're lessons about the real consequences of broken family dynamics. My true story became one of revenge when it could have been one of prevention. Don't let pride and hurt feelings destroy your family bonds. Speak up when you're being disrespected. Set clear boundaries. Demand the basic courtesy you deserve, especially from those you love most. God blessed me with a second chance to rebuild my relationship with Ivy, but not every true story ends so hopefully. Some grandpa stories end with permanent estrangement because someone waited too long to act or acted too harshly when they finally did. Learn from my mistakes. Address disrespect immediately with love but firmness. Don't let resentment build until it explodes. God wants families to thrive through mutual respect and genuine care. Remember, respect isn't automatic. Even in families, it must be earned and maintained by everyone involved. If this story made you reflect on your own family relationships, please share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Subscribe to our channel for more meaningful grandpa stories. And tell us in the comments, how do you maintain respect in your family? Your insights could help someone else avoid the painful path I walked.